The memorial garden at the center of the Galactic Assembly had flourished in the decades since its creation. The 16 trees representing the destroyed human medical ships now towered overhead, their branches intertwining to create a living monument that could be seen from orbit. Beneath their protective canopy, Admiral Kate Wilson, now in her 70s but still commanding respect with every measured step, paused before the central plaque listing the names of the fallen medical personnel. "They would be proud," said a familiar voice behind her. Wilson turned to see Ambassador Jack Rivera approaching. Age had whitened his hair, but done little to diminish his diplomatic presence. "Of what we built from their sacrifice?" Wilson asked. "Or how we changed the galaxy's understanding of humanity?" Rivera stood beside her, contemplating the memorial. "Both, I think. Though I doubt they would have imagined the scale of what followed. Mercy, through strength," Wilson murmured, quoting the unofficial doctrine that had guided Earth's expansion into the galaxy since the Krell incident. "Sometimes I wonder if we've strayed too far from Captain Reed's original mission." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert on Wilson's neural implant. Her expression remained neutral, but Rivera had known her long enough to recognize the subtle shift in her posture. "Trouble?" he asked quietly. "Potentially," Wilson replied. "The Mercy's memory has detected unusual activity in the border sectors. Multiple ships with masked energy signatures. The Mercy's memory was the flagship of Earth's new fleet, vessels that served as advanced medical responders, while concealing defensive capabilities that could be deployed within moments. In the decades since the Krell incident, Earth had refined its approach, building an interstellar presence founded on humanitarian service, but prepared for precision intervention. The assembly session begins in 3 hours, Rivera noted. All major diplomatic and medical representatives will be gathered in one place. Wilson's eyes narrowed, including Dr. Ward and the entire medical coordination team. They exchanged a look of understanding. The timing was too convenient to be coincidental. "I'll alert Galactic Security," Rivera said, discreetly. "And I'll contact Earth Command," Wilson added. "We may need to implement Protocol Hippocrates." As Rivera departed, Wilson remained in the garden, her gaze shifting from the memorial to the stars visible through the transparent dome overhead. The galaxy had changed dramatically since the day human medical ships were targeted. Earth's response, methodical, precise, and unforgetting, had established a new paradigm in interstellar relations. "We remember," Wilson whispered to the memorial, an affirmation of the promise that had guided Earth's path among the stars. In the secure command center beneath the Assembly headquarters, Dr. Jason Ward, now director of the Galactic Medical Authority, reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. Surrounding him were representatives from 12 species, each responsible for medical coordination in their respective sectors. "The pattern is unmistakable," Ward said, highlighting clusters of data on the holographic display. 16 outbreaks, all manifesting in the past 72 hours, each targeting worlds with significant human medical presence. Dr. Lena Reyes, his deputy director, manipulated the display to overlay the outbreak locations with shipping routes. "The infection vector appears to be biological agents delivered through medical supply shipments. Our preliminary analysis suggests they're engineered to specifically target human physiology." "After all this time, someone is targeting human healers again," said Ambassador Threll, the Krell representative. The irony of a Krell expressing concern over human medical personnel wasn't lost on anyone in the room. "Not just targeting them," Ward corrected. "Testing us. These outbreaks are serious but containable with our existing protocols. They're probing our response capabilities. A prelude to something larger," Director Mia Rodriguez of Earth Intelligence suggested. Though officially retired, Rodriguez remained the shadow architect of Operation Long Memory and its successors. "The question is, who would risk Earth's response after the lesson of the Krell's supremacy?" The room fell silent as the implications settled over them. In the years since the tribunal, Earth's doctrine of protected medical neutrality had become galactic law, enforced not through military might, but through the understanding that consequences would be precisely targeted and inescapable. Ward activated a secure communication channel. "Admiral Wilson needs to see this immediately. And notify President Chen. The Galactic Medical Authority is initiating emergency protocols." As his staff moved to implement his directives, Ward studied the pattern of outbreaks with the clinical detachment he'd cultivated over decades of crisis response. Whoever had engineered this challenge had studied Earth's previous response carefully. They were deliberately echoing the original attack on the medical ships. 16 targets, precisely. Coordinated. They want us to recognize their signature, Ward murmured. Rodriguez moved closer, keeping her voice low. The question is whether they're trying to provoke another long memory operation, or if they believe they've found a way to counter it. Either way, Ward replied. They've made a fundamental miscalculation. They've studied our history but failed to understand our evolution. The assembly chamber was filled to capacity as representatives from 300 member species gathered for the centennial commemoration. The formal proceedings would celebrate a century of the assembly's existence, with special recognition of Earth's contribution to galactic medical advancement over the past decades. President Howard Chen, the fifth Earth leader since the Krell incident, took his place in the diplomatic box alongside Ambassador Rivera. Though his public schedule showed this as a ceremonial appearance, Chen had been briefed on the emerging crisis minutes before. Status? He asked quietly, as Rivera sat beside him. Intelligence confirms coordinated attacks against our medical outposts, Rivera replied, his diplomatic smile never wavering as he nodded to passing dignitaries. 16 so far, matching the number of ships lost in the original incident. Wilson has the fleet on alert status, and Ward has deployed emergency medical countermeasures to contain the outbreaks. Chen maintained his composed expression. Casualties? 42. Confirmed. Hundreds exposed. The biologicals appear specifically designed to target humans with medical training neural implants. Someone's sending a message, Chen observed. Rivera nodded slightly, a deliberate echo of the past. They want us to know they're challenging the doctrine directly. The chamber lights dimmed as the ceremonial proceedings began. The High Arbiter of the Assembly took the central podium, his multifaceted sensory apparatus gleaming under the spotlight. Distinguished representatives, the Arbiter's translator conveyed. We gather to commemorate a century of cooperation, advancement, and peace among the stars. Today, we especially honor the contributions of our human colleagues whose medical expertise has saved countless lives across our shared galaxy. As the Arbiter continued, a priority alert appeared in Chen's visual field, visible only to him through his neural implant. The message was brief but chilling. Confirmation. Attacks originated from Krell Supremacy Remnant faction operating beyond assembly space. Secondary evidence suggests external technological assistance. Authorization requested for Protocol Asclepius. Chen blinked once to acknowledge receipt. Protocol Asclepius, named for the ancient Earth deity of medicine, represented the evolved form of Earth's response doctrine. Unlike the original long memory operation, which had required years of preparation, Asclepius was designed for immediate implementation, with response mechanisms already embedded throughout assembly space. While the Arbiter spoke of unity and progress, Chen composed his response. Authorization granted. Full spectrum implementation. Primary directive remains surgical precision. We remember. Deep in the uncharted regions beyond assembly jurisdiction, the command vessel Final Supremacy maintained position in the shadow of a rogue planetoid. Inside its heavily shielded command center, Supreme Commander Vorex of the Krell Purity Restoration watched with satisfaction as reports of the biological attacks filtered in. The humans respond exactly as predicted, Vorex told his assembled officers. Their medical teams are fully engaged in outbreak containment. By the time they trace the source, our main operation will be underway. Science Director Morel approached, with a data tablet. The human neural implants are proving more resistant to our biologicals than expected. They've already developed countermeasures for the initial pathogens. As anticipated, Vorex replied. The first wave was merely calibration. Now we know precisely how their defensive systems function. Strategic Officer Krell, a younger Krell who had been raised on stories of the Supremacy's fall, studied the tactical display. The human vessels remain in their assigned sectors. They show no signs of mobilizing for military response. They still believe in their doctrine of surgical precision, Vorex said with a clicking sound that approximated Krell amusement. They think they can identify the responsible individuals and deliver targeted justice, as they did to our predecessors. But we have no central leadership to target, Morel observed. Our command structure is distributed, our operatives genetically masked. There are no individuals for them to hold accountable. Vorex activated the main strategic display, showing 16 assembly medical coordination centers highlighted in pulsing red, which is why the humans will fail. Their doctrine was effective against a hierarchical military structure like the old supremacy. But we have evolved beyond that vulnerability. And our benefactors? Krell asked cautiously. Vorex's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. The Shadir remain committed to our alliance. Their technology has made our resurgence possible, and they will receive their payment when the human medical network is dismantled. What Vorex didn't reveal was the true nature of that payment. The Shadir, a species unknown to the Assembly, had provided the Krell remnant with advanced technological capabilities in exchange for something only the former supremacy could provide: detailed biological data on Assembly species, particularly humans. Data that had been meticulously gathered during the years of covert observation before the original attack on the medical ships. Proceed with Phase 2, Vorex ordered. The targeted strikes against human medical infrastructure must commence simultaneously across all 16 sectors. When their healing capability collapses, their influence within the Assembly will follow. As his officers moved to implement his commands, Vorex studied the tactical display with the satisfaction of one who believes victory is already assured. The humans had built their galactic influence on the foundation of medical service, protected by the implicit threat of precise retribution against those who challenged it. By attacking that foundation systematically, with no clear target for retaliation, Vorex believed he had found the fatal flaw in Earth's doctrine. What he failed to understand was how profoundly that doctrine had evolved since the days of Operation Long Memory. Aboard the medical vessel Never Forget 2, Admiral Wilson received the presidential authorization with grim satisfaction. Around her, the command center transformed as hidden systems activated, revealing the vessel's true capabilities. Protocol. Asclepius is authorized, she announced to her senior staff. Full-spectrum implementation. Colonel James Reed, Jr., son of the captain who had died aboard the original Mercy's Hand, stepped forward. As tactical director for the medical fleet, he had spent his career preparing for this moment. All vessels confirm ready status, Reed reported. Medical defense grids are active in all 16 targeted sectors. And the contingency measures? Wilson asked. Dr. Anna Roberts, chief medical officer and architect of the newer aspects of Earth's response doctrine, activated a specialized display. The biometric monitoring network confirms positive identification of all hostile actors. 728 individuals across 43 worlds, with the command cluster located here. She highlighted a region beyond assembly space. Wilson studied the display with the eyes of someone who had seen this pattern before. They're replicating the original attack strategy, but with distributed leadership to avoid targeted justice. An evolution we anticipated, Roberts noted. Which is why Protocol Asclepius was designed as it was. For 2 decades, every human medical professional serving in assembly space had been more than just a healer. Each was also a node in a vast intelligence network, gathering biometric data on every patient they treated, every official they interacted with. Not for any nefarious purpose, the data was primarily used to enhance medical care, but with a secondary function: to create a comprehensive biological map of the galaxy's sentient population. Combined with the microscopic biomonitors that Earth medical teams had introduced into water systems, food processing centers, and atmospheric filtration throughout assembly space, again, ostensibly for health monitoring, this network allowed Earth to identify and track virtually any individual anywhere in civilized space. Begin targeted implementation, Wilson ordered. Precision parameters in effect. Across assembly space, human medical personnel received the activation signal through their neural implants. None visibly reacted. None stopped their healing work. But within each implant, secondary protocols activated, releasing specifically engineered countermeasures into the surrounding environment. Unlike the broad-spectrum approach used in the original long memory operation, Protocol Asclepius delivered individually tailored effects. The 728 identified conspirators, regardless of location, regardless of species, simultaneously experienced identical symptoms: complete neuromuscular paralysis, sensory awareness intact. In government offices, on military vessels, in civilian disguises, the conspirators froze in place, unable to move, unable to communicate, but fully conscious. In the assembly chamber itself, 3 previously unidentified Krell operatives serving on diplomatic staff suddenly stopped functioning, their breathing apparatus clicking in distress. Phase 1 complete, Roberts reported, monitoring the global effects. All identified hostiles neutralized without casualties or peripheral effects. Commence Phase 2, Wilson directed. Reed activated a secure communication channel to the 16 medical vessels positioned throughout assembly space. Implement containment protocols. Prepare for extraction and evidence preservation. Within minutes, human medical teams in distinctive white uniforms appeared wherever a conspirator had been immobilized. Moving with practiced efficiency, they secured each paralyzed individual on specialized medical transports, explaining to startled witnesses that they were responding to a neurological contagion event, and removing affected individuals for treatment and quarantine. In reality, they were collecting the conspirators for evidence processing and eventual justice, all under the legitimate authority of the Galactic Medical Authority's emergency containment protocols. In the assembly chamber, the High Arbiter's address was interrupted as the 3 paralyzed Krell were removed by Earth medical personnel. President Chen rose from his seat, approaching the central podium at the Arbiter's confused gesture. Distinguished representatives, Chen began, his voice carrying the weight of formal declaration. Earth regrets the interruption of this historic occasion. However, it is necessary to inform this assembly that a coordinated attack against galactic medical infrastructure is currently being neutralized. A murmur ran through the chamber as representatives processed this announcement. 16 biological attacks against human medical facilities have been contained, Chen continued. The perpetrators, identified as remnants of the Krell supremacy, operating with external technological assistance, have been neutralized and are being taken into protective medical custody. The Krell representative, Threll, rose in evident confusion. The Union government has no knowledge of these actions. If rogue elements of our species are involved, we offer our full cooperation in bringing them to justice. Chen acknowledged this with a respectful nod. The Krell Union's commitment to reformed relations is not in question, Ambassador. Our response targets only those directly responsible for these attacks, in accordance with the principles established by this assembly. Across the chamber, representatives exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone understood the subtext. Earth's doctrine of protected medical neutrality was being enforced before their eyes, with a precision and scope few had imagined possible. Earth does not seek broader conflict, Chen assured them. As always, our response is proportional and precisely targeted. Those who have planned and executed these attacks will face justice according to assembly law. All others remain under our medical protection, as they have for decades. As Chen returned to his seat, Ambassador Rivera leaned close. Impressive implementation. The entire operation was executed under medical protocols without revealing our full capabilities. Chen's expression remained grave. This was the demonstration phase. We still have the command center to address. Beyond assembly space, aboard the final supremacy, Vorex watched in mounting horror as his carefully constructed operation collapsed. One by one, his communications with operatives throughout assembly space went silent. Status reports showed his agents being collected by human medical teams, all without firing a single weapon or revealing their true defensive capabilities. How are they identifying our people? He demanded, turning to Science Director Morel. Our genetic masking should prevent targeted response. Before Morel could respond, the ship's medical officer collapsed, perfectly paralyzed, but with eyes wide and alert. Then another crew member fell, and another. Seal the command center, Vorex ordered, panic rising in his voice. Full quarantine protocols. But it was already too late. Whatever was affecting his crew wasn't spreading through conventional means. Officers continued to freeze in place, paralyzed but conscious, with no discernible pattern of contagion. Strategic Officer Krell, one of the few still mobile, studied his instruments with growing dread. Commander, we're detecting approaching vessels, 16 of them, matching human medical ship configurations. On the main view screen, the vessels appeared, white hulls gleaming, medical insignia prominently displayed. They moved into a perfect containment formation around the final supremacy, maintaining position just beyond weapons range. Open a channel, Vorex commanded, fighting to maintain authority as more of his crew succumbed to the mysterious paralysis. The viewscreen flickered, revealing Admiral Wilson's face. Despite her age, her eyes carried the same determination that had guided Operation Long Memory decades earlier. Supreme Commander Vorex, Wilson said, using his full title with deliberate precision. Your attack on Earth medical facilities has been neutralized. Your operatives throughout assembly space have been secured. You are now facing the consequences of your actions. How? Vorex demanded, his breathing apparatus clicking rapidly in distress. How did you identify all our agents? We used genetic masking, distributed command, every precaution. Wilson's expression showed no satisfaction, only resolute purpose. You studied our history but failed to understand our evolution. For 20 years, every human healer in assembly space has been part of a network more comprehensive than you could imagine. Every patient treated, every wound healed, every life saved has contributed to our understanding. You violated medical neutrality, Vorex accused desperately. No, Wilson corrected. We expanded it. Every action we've taken operates within established medical protocols. The paralysis affecting your crew is a precisely targeted treatment protocol deployed according to Galactic Medical Authority emergency provisions. As if to emphasize her point, another of Vorex's officers collapsed into paralysis. Your predecessors taught us the necessity of long memory, Wilson continued. You have now taught us the value of wide awareness. Earth remembers its fallen, Commander Vorex. We honor them not through vengeance, but through the evolution of their mission. The transmission ended, leaving Vorex alone among his paralyzed command staff. Through the view screen, he watched as small transport vessels departed from the human medical ships, approaching the final supremacy with the inevitable calm of those who know victory is already assured. 1 month later, Admiral Wilson stood once again in the memorial garden at the assembly headquarters. Beside her, Dr. Ward contemplated the 16 trees that had grown from saplings into a living monument. The tribunal begins tomorrow, Ward noted. All 728 conspirators will face judgment, with Vorex and his command staff as the primary defendants. And the Shadir? Wilson asked. Still beyond our reach, but now aware of our capabilities. Intelligence suggests they've withdrawn from this sector entirely. Wilson nodded slowly, studying the memorial plaque with its list of names she had never forgotten through all the decades of preparation, evolution, and vigilance. Captain Reed would be proud, Ward said quietly. Not just of our response, but of how we've transformed his mission. From 16 ships of healers to a galactic network of protection, Wilson agreed. The doctrine has evolved, but its heart remains the same. Around them, representatives from across the assembly passed through the garden, many pausing to pay respects at the memorial. The recent events had transformed the galaxy's understanding of Earth's capabilities, but also reinforced the fundamental principle that had guided human policy for decades. Those who came to heal would be protected, and those who challenged. That protection would face consequences delivered with surgical precision. We've added a new chapter to the doctrine, Wilson observed. Not just long memory, but wide awareness. Ward smiled slightly, and demonstrated once again that humanity's greatest strength lies not in weapons or technology, but in our commitment to healing and our capacity to evolve that commitment in response to new threats. As they left the garden, the 16 trees continued their silent vigil, their branches intertwined overhead in a living symbol of protection. Beneath them, the memorial plaque gleamed with freshly polished names, fulfilling the promise made. Long ago, remember us. Earth had remembered, and in remembering had transformed the stars.